energy, you must have the gut, to stand up and fight back, to rethink in a different direction. But then it's very, very difficult to...
Nelson, but I'm sure staying is also a choice, sometimes a very hard one.
That's the throughput, right? It has a lot of hurdles, a lot of barriers. You have to climb a lot of barriers, bumps and wiggles. And this is the point, right? This is the thing. Like your study was really very theoretical. Yes, stand up when you have been kicked down by disappointment. Let's say you're working on theoretical formulation of an alternative.
Some ideas don't just spark, they ignite. They force us to rethink who we are, what we value, and where we are headed. Welcome to STEM Voices Uganda, the podcast that dives deep into the hearts and minds of the innovators using science and technology and math to solve the real challenges in our Ugandan societies. Today, we are exploring the concept that hits at the core of what it means to be a scientist. What happens when some of the most brilliant minds in the field walk away from physics? Dr. Nelson, welcome back to STEM Voices Uganda, and let's dive straight into this incredible idea. You have created a space where we read stories of masters of physics that are no longer applying their knowledge in the field. What made you start this, and what does the term lost physicist truly mean to you?
Thank you so much, Kenneth. My entire postgraduate studies were much more of a sandwich program between Makerere University, first of all, with the Lund University in Sweden, then between MPIA, Heidelberg in Germany, also Makerere University. So I carry the real definition of suffering from African perspective. And I've really seen a number of my friends really going through a lot of hardship in physics. They really graduate with masters in physics, with bachelors in physics, but then at some point you really see them not practicing this hardcore physics which they studied, and instead return themselves into something different like farming and so on. And that really kind of motivated me to really craft that potential news article series, which is called The Lost Physics. And it's in particular doesn't really imply, they're really pretty much lost, but, they kind of redirected their attention, their focus, because the community no longer, especially in Uganda, the community is not yet, ready to consume service of physicists. So it's very limited. So it's really very hard for them to penetrate into a market or into an ecosystem which really make use of physics. And that's really the spark behind the term, the lost physics.
You've got me thinking here, Nelson, and we've had a few moments to interact. And one of the things that I find so inspiring for myself today is that you describe me as one of the greatest students to have walked through your classrooms. I later moved into other fields of education that relate to development, and I have not had an opportunity to practice a number of key concepts from my physics knowledge. Would you describe me as one of those lost physicists?
That's really a very good question. Yes, you were actually one of the key motivation behind this potential news article, right? Because you were really pretty good at programming, although you were really very stubborn in your own ways. But then you were very good at programming. You were very good at leadership. You really knew how to talk in front of people and how to really communicate physics in a very simple way. I remember giving you guys take-home exams in such a way that you read through statistical concept, phenomenon, try to build reality sense out of it, and really try to come and present and try to convince, why it's important and how it can really solve problem of grandmothers, village. So yes, you are really very good. But then the real motivation was actually centered on you, in the sense that, you were very good, very promising, but then you took a very different direction. You went into something more of community education and development, right? But then that really kept me thinking, because I really believed one of the key reasons which made you to sway direction was perhaps the market space, right? The ecosystem of physics consumption is really very limited, and you really went into something which is really very ready to kind of absorb you, right? Correct me, am I right here?
I think that says a lot about it. Immediately after graduating from your class, I struggled with getting opportunities to apply my knowledge of physics. For example, my undergraduate research was focused on metallicity studies in stars, and there was nowhere in a Ugandan society where I was going to apply that. And the only direct path I was seeing was advancing and maybe becoming an academic and advancing that knowledge of physics. And I think could have contributed to me getting onto another path.
Exactly, Kenneth. This is the point, right? This is the thing. Like your study was really very theoretical, yes, but although with even intense density of theory inside it, there is a lot of practical application which can really be extracted out of it. I remember you did a number of data reduction process, data cleaning, data pre-processing, analysis, critical thinking and so on. Is really a knowledge which can be used, for example, in banking sector, right? It can be used in industries, in research and development sectors, okay, of industries and so on. But the thing is this, we do not have the right mentorship to kind of showcase for us where we can go, despite, doing something on theoretical physics, where can you find real life application for that? And to what end, the community really has blind eye to that. And once you do a research in that area, they think you are good for nothing and you cannot do anything very useful for community, which is very wrong. And we really have to break that conundrum, okay, by kind of, mapping clearly, how the different aspects, different wings, okay, different wings of physics, different webs of physics can find application in various areas. Believe me, any single physics, even those which are not really famous, okay, have a lot of application in real life. They can be applied. Just ask me anything in physics, and I'll tell you the real life application of how it can really be applied in Uganda's context, at least.
Nelson, you've got me deeply thinking about my journey and the abilities that I and other physicists out there can contribute to our societies. And that you think there is still an opportunity for other physicists and myself to contribute to the betterment of our society through the high knowledge that we gain in our journey.
Yes, Kenneth, you and I really know very well that physics is the study of matter and energy, right? So matter and energy is everywhere. Okay, it is in everything we do. So with that say, yes, there is an opportunity for everyone. Physics should not be treated as just a fancy phrase or fancy discipline, but it should be manifested by action. It's a very practical field, and you still have a lot of chance to really, kind of give back to physics and give back to community. Everyone, regardless of their level of education, can really give back to physics, or they can really, use physics to kind of make life better for everyone. I give an example of carpenters, right? They intrinsically deal with a lot of ideas of struts, structural mechanics and so on. But then that's physics, So physics is part of us, and everyone can really, do it. But the thing is this, if we really use physics, okay, to enhance the efficiency of craftsmanship, okay, and people who have perhaps, gotten disappointed from physics, okay, bring them back to think in a very structural way, then there is always a way out. And there is something which we can build big for the community. And to cut the long story short, yes, Kenneth, you're still a physicist, and I know very well you can still add a lot to physics. And again, not only you, even to those people who are not really educated, there is what's known as a traditional aspect of physics. They do a lot of physics. For example, me, while growing up, we used to build siphon system and so on. We pull water from deep well, using just siphon, which basically works on principle of atmospheric pressure difference. Thank you.
I think I feel motivated, and I feel lucky to have gone through your classrooms. And I think right now, even as you mentor a number of young people to gain high knowledge and become competitive in this space, both nationally and the global space, I'm sure you see a number of gifted students who are on the edge of giving up. And I'm wondering, what kind of support keeps them in your lecture rooms, and what kind of world are they dreaming of building?
So I see this kind of students every day while I teach. I see them every time while they walk around the campus. You really see students without spirit, right? Students without energy, without the
Spirit.
spark. Yes, they do not have the spark to kind of, challenge themselves into real physics stuff and so on. So, but then at university level, I really try my best to really kind of revamp their curiosity and so on. But at that stage, it's a little bit late. Like 20 people, you might really interest like 2 people of kind of strategizing my way of doing things instead of really looking at students who are already at university. I would like to start at least by looking at students from A level. It's much better, to kind of build their spirit. And physics is not just a throughput, right? It has a lot of hurdles, a lot of barriers. You have to climb a lot of barriers, bumps, and wiggles. And the real perfect formula for succeeding in physics is self-motivation and resilience. Okay. Being able to stand up when you have been kicked down by disappointment. Let's say you're working on theoretical formulation of an alternative energy, and then you develop something, did thought experiments and so on, and then it kind of does not agree with the fundamental law of physics, then you're wrong. But then being wrong doesn't mean you have to be disappointed, right? You must have the energy, you must have the gut, to stand up and fight back, to rethink in a different direction. But then it's very, very difficult to harness such kind of mindset at university. It's already late at that level. Mostly the damage has been done. But then if we take this to back, okay, by like at least one step, let's say from university, you go to high school, it's far much easier. And I believe really a perfect way of doing that is at least, you and I and everyone out there who is really has, the mindset of physics or education for social good must be able to kind of volunteer, go to the schools and really try to, talk to the students, try to really cultivate their mindset, try to prepare their mind, try to really prepare them for hardship, and try to really prepare them, try to tweak their mindset for originality. And with that, believe me, we shall bring the power of physics back to life in Uganda. And with power of physics back to life in Uganda, the developmental barrier is long gone. Innovation problem is long gone. And we're destined to really transform the country into first world very fast if we really adopt such kind of mindset.
Yeah, Nelson, now I'm wondering if it is too late for children at the university. We talked about this in our first episode of STEM Voices, where you did a study around the recently introduced competency-based curriculum in secondary schools. Do you think that this new competency-based curriculum helps us tap into these abilities before it gets too late?
Yes, exactly. But ideally, again, going back to our previous series on CBC, the competence-based curriculum, I mean, the curriculum in its purest form is really something which is very good, right? And if it has very good objectives, okay, very good everything and so on. But, there is a lot of barriers, a lot of gaps, a lot of lost directions, okay, into mapping the curriculum content into its real goal, right? And that's where the problem is, okay? Otherwise, if what is in the curriculum is really implemented very well, at least 70% implemented to what it was intended to do, then really chances are high that incoming set of students who are beneficiaries of this curriculum have higher chances of really doing something productive, really that insight of hardcore physics insights, extracting physics insights, from community, using physics, for community good, it's very possible, okay, to do that. But then again, we should not stop because, this competence-based curriculum is a perfect definition of what I normally call you cannot give what you don't have, right? And right now, it's really a lot of disaster at a secondary school level. And it's you, me, and one, okay, who has the skill, who has the mindset to challenge, to think critically, to think outside the box, to go and boost these teachers of, secondary school, to challenge them. And we have to co-work together, co-create, and co-develop the mindset of these students and the skill sets of these students.
There is indeed a lot of information in here, and I hope physicists out there, students in schools, students in university, secondary schools, are all getting motivated to see what they can contribute to our societies. And moving back to you, we can all definitely, and everyone following our podcast on YouTube can definitely see that you are one of those most passionate people outside there in the physics space. You stayed in physics, Nelson, but I'm sure staying is also a choice, sometimes a very hard one. Speaking from experience of someone that might be called a lost physicist, and I would love to know, why did you stay and what helps you going when others don't?
Yes, again, thank you so much, Kenneth. I'm someone who is a super believer of interdisciplinary knowledge. And to me, if you really want to understand the language of nature, you must be able to speak very many disciplines. By that, you must be able to speak physics, you must be able to speak biology, social sciences, you must know, communication dynamics, psychology dynamics, and so on. And you see, if you look at physics in its, if really one looks at physics in its raw form, you'll get to realize that it's a subject which can penetrate into all different subjects. Let's say in social sciences, there is what's known as social physics. And that's one of the reasons why these days I do social computing. So in principle, I use statistical mechanics, to kind of model people like, atoms, with different entities, different behaviors, and so on. And then you try to really understand, whether they can be an emergent behavior from this different, snippet interaction of different people and so on. And real people who can really do that are physicists. That's one of the things. Then again, physics, that's just one of the examples, but it's applied everywhere. It's used everywhere. And that's one of the reasons why instead of going into social computing, or instead of going into computer science, or instead of going to engineering, now for like over a year, trying to, in a very, circular manner, loop in and out, I kept looping and so on in form of thinking, thinking loops and so on. Then I've realized physics is the core of everything. And once you know physics, then it's easier for you to really understand the different segments. And that's one of the reasons why I've really decided to remain in physics. But I think you have been watching me, right? How I'm really, trying to touch different areas of physics, in particular, trying
I've
to
always
use
known you
abstract
as a
physics.
jack of all trades.
Say again?
I've always known you as a jack of all trades.
Yes, exactly. So, something like that, close to that. But, I'm not that really very old. With age, sometimes experience comes in, because at this point, I really want to learn a lot. And by the time, I become tired, then I at least have a very good idea of how different disciplines operate and how they communicate together. So that is one of the key points why I really remain so much into physics. But then, being able to kind of use my physics into different areas. I know to some people I'm much more like an academic prostitute, but I think, that's the right thing to do. Because, if you really want to be able to inspire other people, then you really must be able to, convince people in several lens.
What an electrifying conversation with Dr. Nelson Ndugu, diving deep into his revolutionary concept of lost physicists and the untapped potential that could transform our world. This is why STEM Voices Uganda exists, to spark ideas that challenge us to rethink how science, technology, engineering, and math can solve the problems that matter most. But this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. We want to hear what you think. Are you a lost physicist? Do you know someone who's taken their physics brilliance to unexpected places? Drop your stories in the comments below on our STEM Voices Uganda YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, tap the bell for notifications, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching STEM Voices Uganda on YouTube. Until next time, keep pushing, keep dreaming, and let's build a future where no physicist potential is ever lost.